Hello buddy, it's Warhammer here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Golden Colossus, playing as the Empire against the force of the Dark Elves. And in this match I'm going to be using a build I've had quite some success with lately and been messing around with a bit. And I kind of want to show it off, so for my lord I decided to bring good old Barfazar Gelt, and he's up here on Quicksilver, kitted out with quite a few different things. He, of course, does have Metal Shifting, Evasion, his Staff of Alans, and Arcane Conduit, but for spells, of course, we do have Final Transmutation, which I just think is a great spell for different purposes. If your opponent blobs up with a lot of elite units, it can melt them. If your opponent blobs heroes, great for sniping, that sort of stuff. And at the same time, it's also a good deterrent in many ways. And otherwise, we do have two very cheap spells, of course, Searing Doom as well as Plague of Rust, which I think have just got great utility. Plague of Rust, stacked on top of a Knights of the Blazing Sun charge, can allow you to win, say, against the unit of Cold One Knights, which is, in my opinion, absolutely invaluable. And Searing Doom can really help whittle down enemy light infantry, which Dark Elves tend to bring in quite some quantity. Now, for support here with our heroes, we actually have two Empire Captains, and these guys are both, I think, a decent unit, because while they're not amazing in melee stats or anything of that sort, they do bring Hold the Line, which of course is going to help my infantry stick around thanks to leadership and melee defense buffs. And then they also do, as a single model, they're going to be able to tie down units relatively effectively, blob them up for my supporting units to get some good value. The second Empire Captain is actually assigned to support the Relative Fights, once again sort of deflecting a bit of damage that would go in against them, and also providing them with that +5 melee defense, which is just so very valuable. I think their baseline melee defense 41, not bad, but +5, hey, it's good. It's a good benefit. Otherwise, for the rest of the build, well, our infantry line is pretty cheap, though it's definitely a bit of a mixed bag. Spearmen with shields on either end, 3 units of them, Sigmar Suns here in the center, Flagellants, and a single unit swordsman. And these guys will basically do well against any lower end Dark Elf composition. If my opponent goes more elite, with Organized Executioners or Blackguard or Sister Slaughter, yes, these guys are not going to hold up very well, but that's what we have all these other tools for. And speaking of other tools, 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Relative Fights we also mentioned, 2 units of Fist Leaders, who I'm actually really enjoying in this matchup. The recent buffs to melee stats make him okay-ish at dealing with light cap. They can definitely do an okay job against Dark Rider crossbows. Range 80, missile damage 38. They can definitely pick apart flyers. They can harass light infantry. They can harass even light cap to an extent. So definitely, I think they're a very respectable unit in this matchup, despite the fact that these used to be a unit I absolutely hated. I think there are some matchups like the Dark Elf one where they do well, and the 2 Outriders with grenade launchers, who, as you guys know, are one of my favorite units, and I absolutely adore them. And they're really good against squishy Dark Elf infantry, but they'll even do well against expensive Dark Elves like Blackguard and Hellgate Executioners. They're not actually that tanky. Regardless, for my opponent's build, he's got a bunch of Dark Riders with shields, 2 units over there. A unit of Dark Riders with shields is here in the woods. And then he has gone incredibly wide. He's got a mix of spears and bleak swords making up his front line. He's got, actually it's mostly spears, I think. He's got Blackguard Corsairs in there as well, providing some additional anti-infantry support. And these guys, I don't know if they'll actually win against his Sigmar Suns or Flagellants, but they'll definitely trade very, very effectively. And then a whole bunch of Dark Shards with shields. He actually has, I think, 6 units of them. So going whole hog here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, full 6 units. For his lord, he does have a Dreadlord with sword and board. Nothing fancy. She doesn't have particularly amazing weapon strength, but great mobility on the horse. Relatively tanky, of course, because while it doesn't look too amazing with a relatively small profile, she's obviously going to be hard to snipe with shooting. Gives you some flexibility. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to land Balthazar or something. And she does provide some AoE debuffs with Shield of Draw, Strength through Spite. You get some extra melee attack, and of course, for a Seeker to stick around. Finally, we do have a caster somewhere out here, Sorcerers of Shadows, who is pretty kitted out. She's got her Darkstar Cloak, she does have the Smoke and Mirrors, Milkhouse Miasma, Enfeebling Foe, Penumbral Pendulum, and Pit of Shade. So all very decent spells. Fortunately for me, Knights of the Blazing Sun actually do have a resistance to magic, so they're going to be able to shrug off Milkhouse Miasma okay, though not amazingly well. It'll still do some of it. It'll still do most of its damage, but it's definitely nice that these guys have magic resistance. And fun fact, for those of you guys who like to nerd out on certain things, the 25% magic resist on the Knights of the Blazing Sun is actually just about perfect for preventing Spirit Leech or Final Transmutation from sniping models, because on average things like those spells do about 144 damage, and the 25% damage resistance that magic resist provides means that those spells can't snipe models, and that means that oftentimes if you get hit with a Spirit Leech and you haven't taken prior damage, you won't be losing any models with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, because it gets distributed between different models and you can heal them back up to full and you're in great shape. So fun fact for the day, guys. That said, I'm sort of pivoting here, looking to meet my opponent out in the field. You can see my Outriders with grenade launchers here, trying to chip away a little bit at these bleak swords, landing like one grenade in there, which is a little amusing. Dropped a few of those elves to the ground. I think they killed one of them. Or no, never mind. That's just some like lost weaponry over there. A whole bunch of different stuff. But you can see just how much damage those grenades are doing. These bleak swords are already losing several hundred HP, and that's despite the fact that we're not really hitting them optimally. You can see they've lost about 1400 HP. My opponent is really using these Melkoth's miasmas to whittle down my Knights of Blazing Sun, but you know, I can play fairly conservative, I can escape and just avoid fighting. While, as my opponent clumps, we are going to be able to start raining in with grenade launchers, and the cool thing is grenade launchers will actually do some nasty work against infantry like this, and they can kite out of range fairly quickly, because these guys only have 125 range. Unfortunately, with the infantry screen, we are going to be forced to run away, run for dear life as these Dark Riders are pushing in. But our Pistoliers are on the point, so although we might lose a few Outriders with grenade launchers here, we are going to be able to counter them and push these Dark Riders away. And you can see the Pistoliers already whittling them down. I probably should have pushed the Pistoliers straight into melee, but my opponent's cab there is going to be in a very grim spot. Knights of Blazing Sun, in the meantime, are looking to swoop around into the backline. Balthazar Gelt getting a little cheeky and paying for it a bit, but we are able to pull these guys down. You can see they've lost a few models, though. I think a Penumbral Pendulum going down the Knight. The guys don't use Penumbral Pendulum on Knights. Even if you manage to get a little bit of hit like that, it's just not worth. We're able to get into the back line here, start disrupting these Dark Shards, doing some good work. Really, the Dark Shards are not going to do some amazing job against units like Sigmar's Sons or Spearmen. Definitely not a cost-effective job. Over in the meantime, Pistoliers are able to pressure the Dark Riders back, and we're going to be able to force them off the map. And that with the grenade launchers are slowly but surely sort of chipping away, firing their grenades into the blobs. And although we are losing a few models here and there, we are getting some okay value. Unfortunately, huge misplay here on my part with Balthazar getting caught out in the open. And the problem is that, while obviously you can cast no matter how low your HP is, I'm going to take a nasty volley from the Dark Shards after getting that nice little bombardment in there with Searing Doom. And that is actually going to ensure that my opponent, you can see he's going to just empty on Balthazar. And although Balthazar will route and escape, this means that now Overcast is incredibly risky because I could potentially kill my Lord. And that's really, really bad. So my opponent getting a huge boon there because I'm losing the magic that I really need. You can see the grenades here doing some good work against Dark Shards, really messing them up. Grenades, guys, just so amazing. 43 and 45 kills there, I think. Just look at 3150-ish. So really, these guys are doing amazing work. And we are actually going to charge in. Of course, Outriders with the grenade launchers can fire on the move. Why not? Empire, OP. Elsewhere, the Empire Captain with his Royal of Griffites is running amok and just bouncing around, disrupting and shoving off these Dark Riders with spears. And of course, he is pretty mobile on his horse. He's got 78 speed, he's reasonably tanky at 85 armor, and we're doing some good work. Elsewhere in the meantime, here in the pits, you can see the Flagellants getting massive value, bogging down this blob of infantry as the Demigryph Knights and the Captain are going to dive in here and do some major work. Grenade launchers in the meantime pressuring this pocket here with the Knights of Blazing Sun. Really not where they want to be in life, but unfortunately I don't have a choice at this point. I need to take these Dark Shards offline, shut them down, prevent them from firing because I cannot trade with them with the Outriders. So that is definitely a grim situation. Elsewhere though, you can see this Empire Captain on foot here, holding the swordsmen together, keeping them in the fight, keeping them fighting, and doing a good job here. And they are dragging some of these Dark Riders into the muck. Because of course the Empire Captain especially is going to be hitting pretty hard. And he's going to be able to take models down with swings. This is sort of an optimal fight for him. He's fighting relatively cheap chaff. He's very cost effective. This guy's like 500 gold right now, so he's able to hold up pretty well there. Elsewhere, my chaff is sort of doing well. We can see we're bogging down this caster here. We're tearing apart Dread Spears. My opponent is going to get a bit of a... actually, I get a final transmutation here, just a normal cast because I don't want to lose Balthazar. We're actually going to be able to eliminate the caster, which is a really, really nice win. Her HP just tanks there. My opponent, a bit of a misplay here, losing track of her. She's, I think, going to get chopped down by the swordman, so that naked Dark Elf lady there just goes down to the Holy Warriors of Sigmar as we're running amok. Elsewhere, Knights of the Blazing Sun continuously jumping into the fight, repeatedly just giving their lives for the Empire. And here, the Knight Dreadlord with the sword and board is trying to pursue the Pistoliers, but just can't really catch them, so not really getting that much value. She is trying to pick apart the Outriders, definitely not what I'm wanting, so we're going to pull away. Obviously, the Dreadlord is fast enough to catch them, but you know, they should be able to sneak away, squeak out a bit, and the Pistoliers will be hopefully able to pressure the Dreadlord. Elsewhere, continuous bombardment is whittling down these Dark Elf troopers, and of course Sigmar's Sons are just a solid anchor that's never going to rout. Fortunately, the Empire Captain here actually did break, which is a little surprising or unfortunate, but what can you do? Elsewhere, Knights of Blazing Sun being pressured off, but of course, the Royal of Griffites at this point are an absolute terror in the night, because my opponent does not have too many tools to shut them down. Certainly has a lot of spears, but they're a threat to all of these Dark Shards. The Dark Shards are routing out of the battle, so we're able to pick them apart, and there's not very much left to fight them. There's Dark Riders who can't do much. There's Bleak Swords. There's Spears who obviously in a protracted fight could win, but with the support of Knights of the Blazing Sun, Pistoliers, more Empire Infantry, and somewhere out there we have our Outriders. It's just going to be a difficult situation. In the meantime, Barfas are kind of floating around, looking to get some damage in. We do get, you can see a few grenades there. Unfortunately, this formation here could be relatively resistant to the grenade fire because, of course, they are very wide. But they're not really going to be able to make contact with the swarm of Outriders. And you can see they're really getting just pulverized there. Really not where they want to be in life. 30 armor is not going to protect you against high explosive. And I'm actually going to deliver a bit of a charge against the Dread Spears, getting a rear charge in on them. With the Outriders, certainly the Outriders are not really meant for this sort of engagement, but with the rear charge, they're going to be able to break them and save me some ammo, because there's still a lot of chaff for me to clear away, and I don't want to expend ammo if I can avoid it. Flagellants, in the meantime, actually did manage to survive on 20 models. British Sigmar Sun's still holding rather strong. Spearman's still in the pits, and slowly but surely we're chipping away, and you can see there's still this formation. The Royal of Griffites, the Empire Captain, who are able to just sweep around and just wipe out all these peripheral units. You can see Dark Shards here down to 21 miles and way out of position. The Pistoliers are able to whittle down these Dark Shards, and they're actually now going to get terrified, which is really nifty for me. And we're continuously getting a stream of reinforcements who we're able to use to either push units off or rally or that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, big misplay here. I let my Pistoliers get caught by Spears. Like, seriously, guys, this is about as bad as it can get with micro mistakes, but what can you do? Elsewhere, the Flagellants and the Royal Griffites are getting bogged down a little bit by the Dread Spears. We do get rid of the Dark Riders. And now, rather than giving my opponent any sort of honest fight, we're simply going to leave the Flagellants in against the Spears and pull out to go chase the Dreadlord, who, of course, with Plague of Rust on her, only has 60 armor. And the Empire Captain's coming in there with the Steel Chair. He's being backed up by the Royal Griffites, and now we're going to drop a Final Transmutation in here, which is going to start melting her and taking off HP on both her and the Dread Spears, who at this point are going to rout. It's going to be army losses for the Dark Elves. So serious misplays on my part with Balthazar actually almost cost me the game. I lost a lot of... had I lost Balthazar, that could have been game-changing, in my opinion. But I do think this is a very good build against Dark Elves, and I don't want to explain why. With Balthazar, so there's a few things Dark Elves can do. They can go very cavalry-heavy, still. Cold One Knights to get reworked, but they're still a very good unit. You can go with Cav plus Dark Rider plus Doomfire Warlock style build. They can otherwise go with some very elite infantry, or potentially they can go with a super wide build like this one. And in my opinion, this composition has basically an answer to just about everything. If your opponent goes with a bit of a mixed build with perhaps a cheaper front line, you can oftentimes trade rather well, because Flagellants and Sigmar Suns will beat those units down. Empire Swordsmen actually trade rather well. I think they're actually better than Bleak. If the Murderous Prowess doesn't proc, I'm pretty sure Bleak Swords are inferior to Empire Swordsmen in a straight up fight. I haven't tested this, but I think stat wise, especially the way melee defense scales better than melee attack into protracted engagement, which it would be, I think Empire Swords might come out on top. And Empire Spears, of course, not a terrible choice to just hold. They'll do okay. And obviously they racked up some kills here. It's important to just look at the kill counts here. They're not really impressive for any of these units, but that's kind of what you expect. These guys, keep in mind, they're a lot cheaper. They're 75 gold cheaper than the Dread Spears. The Empire Swords are 50 gold cheaper than Bleak Swords. Sure, these guys don't have silver shields, but hey, and they don't have Murderous Prowess, but hey, I think it's a pretty decent trade. And then you've got other tools. If your opponent goes heavy on elite infantry, you've got Knights of the Blazing Sun. If your opponent brings Blackguard, which is not likely to bring a huge amount of them because of the threat of normal Outriders and Outriders with handguns. But if he does bring some Blackguard, you can always hit them with and this is a huge benefit with Balthazar. You've got Balthazar who's able to drop his Plague of Rust, which then makes your Outriders with Grenade Launcher much more effective against a Blackguard. It makes your Knights of Blazing Sun much more effective against Cold One Knights, which means you can win against those Cav builds despite only having one anti-large Cav. It means you can whittle down heavily armored units much more efficiently. Outriders with Grenade Launchers still whittle down heavy infantry unit cost effectively, I'm pretty sure in almost every case. But with the benefit of Plague of Rust, especially Overcast, they're just going to annihilate something like Blackguard. It's going to be an incredibly brutal display, I think. And yeah, here you saw just how badly they minced up those cheap trash troops. If your opponent goes with a bunch of cheap trash, as my opponent did here, Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Terror from the Royal of Griffites, Bombardments from Balthazar, the Staying Power of the Captains, the Harass from the Pistoliers, and the Outriders is just so immensely powerful. So I think obviously it's not a given like insta win or something, this build, but at the same time I don't think there's a single Dark Elf build that this cannot contest or cannot compete against. you're always going to have a chance, in my opinion, which is cool. I think that's pretty awesome. So, regardless, we'll play to my opponent, C. Craggy, was a lot of fun. It was a cool build. Actually, going wide against Empire is potentially viable. If I'd gone with, say, more artillery, more conventional build, this can work out. One of my key critiques here would be that he was a little overzealous with the Sorceress. You wanted to keep her out of the fight, try to keep her safe. And two, I'd actually wait with using Melkoth's Miasma. I try to use it a little later to snare the Knights of Blazing Sun in the fight. And Penumbral Pendulum, better used on infantry. Same with the Pit of Shades. You're better off using it as infantry. So I would have tried to use the Enfeebling Foe to win certain key engagements in the front line a little faster, and use Melkoth's Miasma to weaken those knights, which I think my opponent was doing a great job with. Or perhaps using Enfeebling Foe to weaken the relative knights, make them a little easier to manage. Sure, you're probably not going to be killing in melee with any of these units, but if you can make them less effective in melee, you can then gun them down more easily because they're bogged down. But really, I think this game did come down to backline defense, and my opponent just wasn't quite able to pull it off. There just wasn't enough tools here for backline defense. I think perhaps using the Dark Riders actually as a cannon fodder to soak up my cav charges might have been a good idea. Or definitely use the Dreadlord more proactively to try to shut down cav charges. But regardless, well played. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun to watch some Empire ridiculousness. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I do appreciate the support. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, do not hesitate to put them up. I will respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.